What would you do if your neighbor, tasked with a simple favor, decided to implement their own tax on your children's hard-earned Halloween candy? In today's story, our protagonist's choice is a masterclass in how to handle it. Halloween night. A crisp autumn evening, brought with it the usual buzz of excitement at our apartment complex. Instead of the traditional door-to-door trick-or-treating, residents had been advised to set out pre-packaged individual candy bags on their patios or at their front doors. The old-fashioned knock-on-door, physically hand strangers candy was a no-go this year. Each building had a scheduled time for the pint-sized superheroes, princesses, and ghouls to make their rounds. I, Luna, a 26-year-old mom of two, found myself in a bind. A last-minute work commitment meant I'd be clocking in late. Thankfully, my neighbor, a 38-year-old woman we'll call Willow, offered to chaperone my kids, 6-year-old Lily and 4-year-old Tom, along with her own 2 children, during our building's designated candy collecting slot. It seemed like a perfectly neighborly gesture. About 45 minutes later, my little ones returned, their small buckets clinking with their haul, 6 modest goodie bags each, courtesy of the participating apartments. Everything seemed normal. They were just thrilled to be home and ready to dive into their sugary treasures. The next day, the sun shone brightly as I took Lily and Tom to the park directly across from our apartment complex. Lo and behold, Willow was there with her kids too. The children immediately gravitated towards the playground, their laughter echoing through the air. Willow, meanwhile, rummaged loudly in her purse, pulling out one of those individual goodie bags of candy. She unwrapped a few pieces and popped them into her mouth with evident satisfaction. Lily, ever observant, noticed the candy and bounded over. "Can I have a piece?" she asked, her eyes wide with hopeful anticipation. Willow, without missing a beat, replied, "Nope, this is my tax candy, remember? This was my reward for taking you trick-or-treating last night." I was more than a little taken aback by her statement. "What do you mean, tax candy?" I asked, my brow furrowing slightly. "Well," she explained, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world, "since I was the one who had to take the kids out, I took 5 bags from each of your kids as a tax." Her son, a small voice of unexpected truth, then piped up, "You only took 2 bags from us." Willow quickly shot back, "But I'm your mom. I was doing Luna a favor so they get a higher candy tax." The sheer audacity of it left me momentarily speechless. This reveals Willow's greatest fatal flaw, her self-serving arrogance, which ultimately sealed her fate. As I stood there, trying to process this bizarre candy tax situation, my gaze fell upon the candy in her hand. It was a Starburst. And then it clicked. Willow prided herself on being super vegan, constantly in people's faces about the health benefits of her lifestyle. She'd often bragged about veganism curing everything from cancer to mental health issues, though I'd never once heard her mention animal welfare. She even sold herbal teas and customized gym clothing, embodying a whole vegan lifestyle. And she was eating a Starburst. A sly smile touched my lips. I decided to simply nod and return my attention to my kids playing. I watched as she continued to finish off the bag of candy. Once the last piece was gone, I casually remarked, "Hey, aren't you vegan? You know a lot of those candies are made with animal products, right?" I went on to explain what gelatin was, and how many candies, including Starbursts in the US, contain it. Her face contorted in horror. She whipped out her phone, frantically Googling. Her expression shifted from disbelief to utter disgust. "We're leaving," she announced to her kids, her voice laced with revulsion. "I'm going to be sick," she muttered, before storming off. From that day forward, Willow has given me dirty looks every time our paths cross. If she shows up at the park and we're already there, she won't let her kids play. My husband, Liam, initially thought I was the jerk, arguing that I should have either kept my mouth shut or said something immediately. However, I firmly believed it wasn't my responsibility to educate a self-proclaimed vegan, especially after she'd stolen candy from my children. As one commenter so eloquently put it, NTA ignoring the fact that this candy tax is just a sugar-coated way of thieving candy from children. It's not your responsibility to inform someone if something is vegan or not. If this mom didn't know how gelatin is made, that's her issue and not yours. Another added, NTA, you would be if she had an allergy to something and didn't tell her, but this was just good petty revenge. When Lily and Tom got home from the park, I sat them down. "Why didn't you tell me about the candy Willow took?" I asked. Lily, my 6-year-old, explained that as they went door to door, Willow had instructed my 4-year-old, Tom, to grab 2 bags instead of 1 from most apartments. She'd told them these extra bags were for her taxation at the end. So, whether directly or indirectly, she had indeed taken candy from my children. Willow made a foolish decision at that moment, completely unaware that this single act would lead to her own downfall. It turned out Liam's grumpiness had less to do with my actions and more to do with Willow's retaliation. He confessed that she'd been parking in his assigned spot and giving him dirty looks since the candy incident. Since I work from home and hadn't used the car in days, I was completely oblivious. He hates confrontation, and had been misplacing his anger at me. I plan to talk to her about the parking first, and if it doesn't stop, I'll take it to management. In the meantime, I've stocked up on several bags of candy, which our entire family has been happily snacking on. As another commenter wisely stated, seriously, what kind of vegan doesn't know not to eat gelatin? NTA. The moral of this story is that actions have consequences, and sometimes, those consequences come with a side of karma, and a dose of gelatin. What would you have done in my situation?